President Trump is furious after major oil fields and gas plants are hit. Saudi Arabia and Russia come up with new plans to get oil and gas out to the world to keep prices down. DC and Wall Street panic until Trump steps in and prices drop way down. We are witnessing high stakes poker with millions of lives on the line. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. While the media is trashing President Trump and screaming about $160 per barrel oil, reality is quietly moving in a very different direction. As real data comes in from major producers, crude oil is actually drifting down towards the low 90 per dollar barrel price, not spiking into apocalyptic territory. That tells me that the market is starting to believe what the headlines won't say out loud. The world is already rerouting around Iran's chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz and ramping up supply. Saudi Arabia just flipped a switch. Instead of letting their economy live or die by Hormuz, they fired up the 746-mile pipeline that pushes oil from the eastern field across the country to the Red Sea port of Yanbu. Flow through Yanbu has exploded to over 4 million barrels per day. That's up 185% since the war began. That surge means the kingdom has already clawed back more than half of its old export capacity by going around Iran altogether. And it's not slowing down. Dozens of tankers are stacked up off Yanbu, waiting to load, with more on the way. That's not the behavior of a market preparing for collapse. That's a producer determined to keep the world supplied. Now, I'll be honest with you. Right now, there's over 1,000 oil tankers that are trapped in the Persian Gulf. At the same time, Russia is quietly cashing in on the Iran war. Its seaborne crude export has jumped above 4 million barrels per day, one of the highest weekly levels in years, helped by temporary looser sanctions on cargo already at sea. Prices for Russian oil into India just hit record high, and Moscow's weekly revenue spike is the biggest since the early days of the Ukraine war. Between Saudi Arabia's barrels moving around Hormuz and Russia's barrels racing to Asia, the global system is adapting quickly. So while the experts on TV are predicting $160 to $200 per barrel crude, permanent pain at the pump, the math on the ground says something very different. Producers are drilling and shipping smarter than ever. I'm hoping that this will be temporary. Now, I'm sharing all of this because everyone watching this show right now is feeling the pain at the pump, and I'm trying to give you a clear reality of what's really going on, and right now, it's looking optimistic. Now, on top of that, President Trump just suspended the Jones Act, a shipping law that gives the United States significant control over the world's oceans and Western Hemisphere. He suspended the rule for at least 60 days to pressure Iran to open up the oil spigots as well as the Strait of Hormuz to the rest of the world. This is incredible news for all of us as we deal with these temporary high gas prices. With $4 trillion of investment capital on the line from Abraham Accord nations to the United States, President Trump is working hard to solve the Hormuz problem, but it's not without hiccups. Last night, Israel hit a major oil field and lit a match under the world's energy system. And Iran answered with fire of its own. Revenge attacks all night long. Israel punched first by hitting the South Pars gas field, the crown jewel of Iran's energy sector and the world's largest gas field, shared with Qatar. Now, this wasn't just another military target. This was a direct shot at the cash machine funding Tehran's regime and terror network. But it was the wrong move. Iran did not take this lightly. Tehran hit back by striking a major gas hub in Qatar and launching missiles towards Saudi Arabia's oil and gas sites, deliberately putting Gulf refineries and export terminals in the crosshairs of their revenge tour. Now, Arab governments are furious, not just at Iran, but at Israel for dragging their lifeline asset into the war, and at Washington, D.C. for not preventing it. Leaders across the Gulf now say a giant target has been painted on their back. Now, President Trump, he's not putting up with this. He's already been on the phone with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. This is exactly what President Trump warned about behind the scenes. He told Israel, hands off the oil and gas. We don't need a global energy crisis. Because once you start blowing up fields and refineries, you're not punishing Iran, you're lighting the fuse under every family's power bill and gas tank. We're no longer just talking about ships in the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about direct attacks on the infrastructure that keeps the lights on in Europe and Asia. Iran has entered a dangerous new phase, and every strike on energy assets accelerates the global crisis Trump is trying desperately to avoid. On top of that, the stupidity of Iran. It was actually proven that Iran was trying to fire missiles at United States nuclear silos in the country of Turkey. So if they can't get a nuclear bomb, their attempt at hitting America's nuclear silos in Turkey just happened. Now, gratefully, they weren't able to reach there, but this could just be the first of many attempts. But it's hard to get Iran to cooperate when the U.S. military is literally bombing them 24 hours a day. Right now, Iran has no leadership, just generals and colonels attacking every important infrastructure site they can think of to disrupt Gulf nations' income and make them regret ever doing business with Donald Trump and the United States of America. Now, this is dire, and I'm hoping that things will get better. Right now, the U.S. military, they have been unleashed. They are doing a phenomenal job. Today was the biggest day of bombing. Multiple 5,000-pound bombs dropped on mountains that were holding missile silos, could be holding the uranium that Iran was trying to hide. So good things are happening, but my goodness, there's a lot of broken eggs as they try to clean up this mess. Meanwhile, at home, Mayor Zohran Mamdani is pushing hard to raise taxes on the working class of New York City. But Governor Hochul knows his ideas are going to kill tax revenue. But this is exactly how she used to talk. She used to tell people, get out of New York, take your money and get out of here. Now she's literally begging these people, please, please come back.
And we're here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values. You are not New Yorkers.
But maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We've saw that that's not the case. I mean, Wall Street businesses looking at Texas, they're not going there because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure. But they're going there because of the tax rate. We have to be smart about this.
This is happening in Virginia. This is happening in California, Oregon, Maine, and even in New York. These Democrat leaders are literally desperate to get more money so that they can give it to illegal immigrants and fraud organizations. Now, listen to this. Governor Pritzker of Illinois just admitted in an interview that the moment Democrats take power, they will impeach President Trump, and their ultimate 2029 plan, according to him, is to arrest, jail, or sue everyone connected to the Trump administration.
What does a Project 2029 agenda look like for you?
I don't think you can speak of it in shorthand, but I'll just say a couple of things that I think are absolutely necessary. One is we've got to restore the rule of law, and that means holding people accountable who've broken the law. I'm talking about in this administration, when we get a new one, the people in this administration who've broken the law and federal agents who've broken the law need to be held accountable.
And that means criminally prosecuted.
Criminally prosecuted, civilly prosecuted, whatever it is that we can do, right? It may be that you can't criminally prosecute somebody, but that you can go after them civilly.
In 2025, the global spend for cancer research was $356 billion. Big Pharma's cancer drug revenue increased by 70% over the last decade. Meanwhile, cancer rates in people under 50 have doubled. Whether it's because of the vaccines, our lifestyle, the environment, one thing is clear: there still isn't affordable and effective treatments. This is where the wellness company steps in to help you own your own health. For example, gold standard parasite cleanse, ivermectin and mendenzabal, have shown success in triggering cancer cell death, which wakes up the immune system and initiates an immune response, while hindering blood supply to tumors and halting metastasis. Unfortunately, mainstream doctors and pharmacies, they won't prescribe these medications. At the wellness company, you can order it right from your home. USA compounded, doctor-prescribed ivermectin and mebendazole, designed to help the body eliminate parasites with proven off-label cancer-fighting benefits. Each bottle contains 90 capsules, enough to complete 4 21-day cleanses. Fill out a quick intake form, a doctor reviews it, and your medical-grade parasite cleanse arrives in weeks. The wellness company understands what medical freedom is. Head to twc.health/amazing and use code AMAZING to save $60 plus free shipping. USA residents only. So these Democrats are not playing around. They literally want to jail Trump's family, Trump himself, and everyone. I'm talking everyone. They're probably going to go after Trump's assistant at the White House. These Democrats are crazy, and we must get out to vote in order to keep them from committing this type of evil. Now, did you know that China penetrated 18 U.S. states' voter rolls? I didn't, because our intel agencies hid this from the American people and even from President Trump. But it begs the question, now that we know this and we have the evidence, why is Tulsi Gabbard and President Trump sitting on this information? Listen to what was shared earlier today, and then I'll share with you what I believe their next big move is.
If Tulsi Gabbard looked Mark Warner into the face and said, "Sir, we were told for 6 years that there was no foreign intrusions in our election. We've now indicted Iranians for hacking into one voter database. We now have evidence that 18 other states' voter databases were penetrated by China. And the reason you and I don't know about that is that a series of intelligence analysts and officers under Donald Trump and Joe Biden put party before country. They decided they were not going to tell the country. They were not going to tell the Congress. They were not going to tell the president of the United States that China did these things because they didn't want to give Donald Trump ammunition on his China policy, because that is what the ombudsman concluded. On the record, there is a report that's been sitting with nobody noticing it. The Intelligence Committee ombudsman saying that the CIA intentionally kept the president and the country in the dark because they didn't like Donald Trump's policies, even used disparaging names to describe the commander-in-chief they're supposed to be working for. We got to find out if any of those officers still work for the CIA, because they should be fired. But she could have done that because she has all of this evidence. And by the way, she has a lot more evidence than what I've been trying to squeeze this out. She has oodles more evidence. It is more damning than what I've reported, and she's been sitting on it. Why? I don't know. She didn't deploy it today. The president knows of this evidence. The White House chief of staff knows of this evidence. They went into, I think Kash Patel has answered the imminent threat pretty interestingly on Iran. He's talked about China. He brought up the driver's licenses today. That was important. Ratcliffe seems a little bit more engaged, but Tulsi seems to just be roadkill. She's not using the data in front of her agency to tell a story that's much more compelling.
All right. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I just showed you guys a video yesterday about how they are manipulating the voter rolls, how they are using modified ballots and voter ID, basically ghost votes, in order to vote. We just proved this down in Texas. More will be coming out about that very soon. But John Solomon said something really interesting. He can't figure out why DNI Tulsi Gabbard and the President of the United States, who has been briefed on this breach of the election systems, is doing nothing. This is my best guess. I believe that once this Iran war situation is handled and done, as we head towards the midterms, I believe President Trump and Tulsi Gabbard are about to drop a bombshell on the United States of America. I think they are going to expose all of this information and prove that we need the SAVE Act, but also rally the base that we must get out and vote. We cannot lose. We cannot allow them to ever take control of our country again. If you're playing chess, you don't move all of your pieces at the same time. I believe they are purposely holding back all of this voter fraud information until after the news headlines clear and everything's done with Iran. And then I believe they're going to push forward all of this information to the American people. But you're hearing it right here for the first time, maybe. So that's why you need to like this video and subscribe to the channel. All right, stay amazing, and I'll see you on the next video.